In Salt Wars coming up to 9 years now, and over this first start of the year I started judging and entering from then and learning a lot. So a lot of the stuff I say isn't completely solid, but it is things I've learned and picked up along the way. The first thing I learned is do not tell people it's your first time entering items, ever. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the judges. That's not what matters in the quality of your item, especially if you some people are just naturally gifted more than others, and you have a learning process to go through from there. If anything, I've noticed it kind of makes you judged on a little harsher because they're like, oh, this is only your first time. You definitely have a lot more to do and go through. And then another thing I learned is do not tell how long you worked on something. Some people take a lot longer to make just as high of quality and craftsmanship on certain items than them. Rambling. But because something that could take me 10 minutes might take someone an hour, but it's still just as good of an item, so they should score the same, depending on the processes and everything you use and your level of expertise, things like that. Another thing, let's see here. A good helpful thing is try to keep your description cards not too long, but you want enough information to tell them how you went through your things. So when you're doing stuff as you go, what I like to do is I write notes of what I'm doing. All right, so I measured out this fabric and I cut it out. And you can even say that I didn't use any measuring tools. What I did was all by hand. If you used a pre-made pattern or if you made your own pattern and kind of things, those kind of things help. They don't really dramatically change your score, but it does help them give you more of an accurate score on what level you are in crafting. And what kind of stitches you used where and why. So if you use a simple French seam everywhere, or if you do finishing seam what is it called? On a serger, where you serge the ends and everything, so it prevents it from fraying, and why you use it on certain fabrics to help them from ripping as easily and everything like that, or reinforcement seams. Really helps out to know. And terminology, very helpful. Know what you're talking about. Because as we've seen in the last year of someone who entered something they did not make, you can tell the difference of who knows what they're talking about and not. And you're making me so nervous.
Just look at me, whiskey.
Another thing that helps with your write-ups is if you type them, if you have really bad handwriting. Because a lot of judges, they don't want to read them. If you have really bad chicken scratch, I've had to read so many things that I had to go and ask, what does this say? I'm getting more frustrated trying to read your card and figuring out what you did versus actually going through it and trying to judge and get it over quickly. Because if you have a long explanation, horrible writing, nobody's going to read it. They're just going to say, this is what I think of it, and then go on to the next thing. And you're not going to get the really accurate score that you really want out of things. So I think having a good description card helps, but it's not going to dramatically change your score as much. I actually learned a few years ago, my friend made something all by hand, the entire really pretty field garb dress. She got a 3.3 because it looked a little average, whatever. She didn't write that she did it all by hand, and all the stitches were perfect. It looked like it was done by a machine, so everyone assumed it was by a machine. She could have got much more accurate score if she actually described and told people what she did on her dress and everything. She didn't even have a pre-made pattern. She made it all on her own, and it's unfortunate when you feel like you're getting shafted basically by your entry because you work so hard on it, but then you don't take the time to do it and tell people what you did and show that passion and energy that you had when you were making it. Things like that. It's fun. So for 2D art, what I like to do when I write it out is I say what kind of mediums I'm using, first of all. Say if you're using pencil, pen, digital art, markers, watercolor, it's all different because acrylics are going to be very different from watercolors. Because acrylics, if you mess up, you can paint over it, fix it over and over again, but with watercolors you screw up and it's very hard and near impossible to fix it. It takes a much more fine and different skill base and everything like that. And if you are sketching and using a reference versus coming up with something on your own, those are two different kind of style things too. And so I write that down, and if you use any measuring tools or anything like that. And then I also write why I'm entering it, just a short description. This is related to AmpGuard to me because so and so and so. This is what I use for my themed rain, or it's not really important, but I like to enter it, or this is what I'm using for this so-and-so battle game, or I'm doing this presentation because it's really close to home for me, or things like that. Just something to make it more personal in a way, but not, I don't know. This is garbage. So garbage. You don't have to record anymore. I'm sorry. You're still recording, aren't you?
Because this all makes
Can you
sense.
edit
and
this
is
out
very helpful.
by chance? No?
I could, but I'm not gonna. Keep going.
Oh my gosh. You're a monster.
I really am,
Whiskey.
and you love me. Keep going.
Yeah.
You're doing
all
great.
helpful, all useful, all good.
Yeah. So, yeah. I prefer seeing people who type out and use very legible font on cards, because I've seen people like they get really out of the way crazy, like I'm gonna make this so pretty with an epic background and use this really cool font, and then they can't even read it, and they're so focused on your card that they don't even notice your item, and they'll see it and they're like, oh, your card actually looks cooler than your entry or things like that. So try to make it look nice, but not overly done, not too epically cool looking for your entry or things like that. So I'll use like a light colored background sometimes on my entries to make it set in the theme. Like if I'm using a nice flowery picture, I'll put like a nice soft kind of font. Don't use Comic Sans. Don't use it. It's a rule. Don't use it. But I'll try and make it nice and flowy. Just use a very simple pop out print that'll make it so they can just read it and be on their way. And I think that's all the tips I can think of right now, unless you guys have questions. Do you have questions? Do you have any questions? What do you like to, let me think. Have you judged before?
Yeah.
What do you like to see when you see it right up?
I usually just skim it for the basic information of what it is.
Keep it straightforward. You don't like them when they're too long, like I
Yeah.
said, like, because
If they're too
especially
simple,
if you're
way too
putting in a writing and everyone has to read that, and then they're reading your super long description cards as well. Keep it straight to the point, very straightforward. Put all the stuff that you want, and then a very small thing if you want to, like
My
one line
golden
a day.
rule is those long, like 3-inch post-it notes.
Mhm.
If it can't fit on that, it's too long.
Yeah, some of them do need to take a little more space though, like with leather projects.
Yeah.
But if you can, try to keep it very straightforward and minimum detail
Do we
things.
need to write a novel for it?
You sure? You can. I don't think everyone's gonna read it, but you can totally
I was
write
about to
it.
say the
Oh,
only
yeah.
time that a description card should take up more than that is if it's a step-by-step description card that is also an entry itself.
Yes, I love the instruction entries. We've had a few of those in the past, and I like when they have the pictures of the process they have through their item. So like you can have
I
pictures.
did that once. For
Like
the quote.
I saw, I think it was Fitz did this a few years ago. Had a really cool step-by-step process he did for an armor set that he entered, and it was in a little binder for his description card, and it had the very nice big font that was easy to read, so it wasn't like too many words, and then a picture showing each little step he did of the armor and the process and the pictures. And it was very educational and very informative on his item, and it made it, I think, a lot better for people to understand. They can learn and judge at the same time. So, yeah.